All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun. And today we're going to be doing a little discussion about two shows that I've watched on Netflix pretty much back to back. I've been doing a whole big Netflix binge stuff. I took a big break on Netflix and finally came back when I felt like there was a nice pile of things to watch. And oh my gosh, I did come back to Netflix for at a good time. Between everything I've been watching, you've seen it on my channel. The things I've been finding to talk about are a lot, and there's more to come on top of this. Today we're discussing, and if you like what we do on the channel, I always do this. I always forget. If you like what we're doing here, or if you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. But if you are liking what we do here, don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell. Blah 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 blah. Get all that crap out of the way, because what we really want to get to is I want to talk to you about Ridge wallets. No, I don't want to talk to you about Ridge wallets. I want to talk to you about these two shows that are on Netflix that one was recommended to me and one I watched because I'm just in that kind of mindset. We're talking about Blue Eye Samurai and Onimusha, both animated series on Netflix. Two shows that have similar settings but handle the material completely differently. One is so good on just about every level that I didn't even want to talk about it initially, because I'm like, what can I possibly say that hasn't been said already about it? Because I haven't listened to what anybody has to say about either of these shows. But I've seen a lot of thumbnails, and I also know that likely, opinions are, the statement that opinions are like assholes. There's going to be usually like a general consensus and then some outliers of people on extreme feelings one way or the other, either super positive or super negative. So I just don't even bother really watching too many people talk about stuff anymore. I just like to make up my own mind and talk about things the way I do. And the way I talk about things is I talk about how they made me feel, what they make me think about. I love talking about the casts. I love talking about writing. And this show has two very different styles of writing. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how Onimusha is somehow inferior to Blue Eye Samurai, or I'm not going to talk about how Onimusha might be a good or bad video game adaptation. I actually don't know anything about the video games, and I've been a gamer my entire life. I will say this about not knowing anything about the adaptation is I've become more and more happy with not knowing the source material for things. It makes me feel like I don't have to have anything to prejudge it by, outside of what I think are my own tastes about film and animation and entertainment in general. So we'll be talking about it from my own opinion. I know that there are tons and tons of experts, people that are even more, that are just like me, who just know a lot more about anime and animation and everything else, and people who die on certain hills. Like, I'm sure there are people that think Onimusha is the greatest thing in the world, and there's probably people that think it's the worst thing in the world. And same thing for Blue Eye Samurai. I'm here to do more of an appreciation for both of these shows. So if you want somebody who's going to get more controversial about things, well, you're free to click off, because I think both of these shows are fucking awesome in both different ways. Now, if you want, like, if you absolutely positively need to have an opinion, my opinion on which one I like more, well, just look at this, what you're looking at. All right. Blue Eye Samurai is the background, and Onimusha is this other little picture on the screen as well. It's a little bit smaller, but I picked a picture that I really liked. We'll start with Onimusha. But first, look, the reason I'm even talking about this is because I've started to get into anime proper. I am 48 years old. I've been watching anime here and there since the 90s. I love Vampire Hunter D and Ninja Scroll and Cowboy Bebop. That's where I came in. I love Akira, or Akira, depending on how you want to say it. I love all that stuff. I've been recently, I watched Full Metal Alchemist. I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, even if that's not, anime. It's the setting. I like the setting of it. I like the mythology of it. It's nothing like you'd see in a lot of American shows. And that's kind of why I started watching anime and really diving into it, is not necessarily because I'm just in love with the culture or anything. I just wanted to try some new things. I wanted to branch out and not be pigeonholed into just liking things that are made here in America. And I started by rewatching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, not the original, but the Brotherhood. And I've been watching Attack on Titan, and I've been watching My Hero Academy, and Chainsaw Man, and One Piece, and the One Piece a live action show that we did review. And I've been rewatching the Cowboy Bebop live action show that I still contend is, if you stop thinking about the source material, I think it's awesome. I still think Cowboy Bebop is awesome and should have never been canceled. But that's just apparently my stupid ass opinion. In One Punch Man, I don't think I said that. I've been watching a ton of stuff, but I stopped my Hulu that had a lot of that stuff to focus on what was going on Netflix. So here we are. I needed to replace what I was watching with something else. So I started watching Blue Eye Samurai, finished it, started watching Onimusha, just finished it. And these are my thoughts about both of those shows. So starting with Onimusha, and this is not going to be an episode to episode detail thing. This is going to just be my personal thoughts and feelings on these shows. As a whole, there will be some, if I get to anything around spoilers, I will let you know. If you have not watched these, I highly recommend watching both of these shows. In fact, I thought an interesting thing you could do is watch these shows kind of in tandem. I would recommend watching the first couple of episodes of Blue Eye Samurai, and then kind of as a crazy palate cleanser, I would watch an episode of Onimusha, which means literally, I think it's Demon Hunter, right? Or Devil Hunter. I love it. But I think with the seriousness, I mean, if you want a comparison, right? The comparison to me for Blue Eye Samurai and Onimusha is pretty much just in its writing and its voice cast. The voice cast and the writing in Blue Eye Samurai is top freaking notch. The co-creators, Michael Green and his wife, really crafted some great dialogue. Onimusha has, and it also like lives in a very realistic version of what I would consider a more realistic take on this setting. Onimusha, on the other hand, has very video game dialogue, very cliche, very tropey, not sometimes very cringy, but it makes up for it in absolute like bananas, balls to the walls action. And it also has like great animation. It definitely feels like a video game. So to talk about Onimusha proper, here we go. The big thing that drew me to it originally was because I've never again, there are people that don't believe like that people that are really into film could possibly miss some of the most influential and culturally significant films of all time. And some of those are Akira Kurosawa's. I can't deny it. I've never seen a single one of them, but from the consensus of the entertainment and film and cinema community, I can't deny that they've got to be right if they all say it. I myself have never seen a single one of them, even though like some of it's, been the influence of some of the most influential things today, like Star Wars. And I've never, ever seen anything from the late actor Toshiro Mifune, who plays the main character in Onimusha, whose name, if I can find it here, and I might have to pause my stupid thing just to tell you guys what his sticking name is, because I know he played the character in a couple. Okay. So instead of me stumbling around, I'm not even going to try to remember everybody else's names because I just can't do it. But the guy's name is Musashi. And we're following this guy around as he goes on what I can only consider to be what must feel like, well, because it feels like a video game, first off. As it goes along, you feel like you're going through a section and then you fight a boss and then you fight some more things and you get to another boss. And there's the the twists and the turns and the betrayals that I expect in a lot of video games. Characters who suddenly become monsters, a la Resident Evil, which, since this is based on a Capcom game, that is very Capcom. Uh, and speaking of which, the reason I probably don't know much about the Onimusha games is because I'm not the biggest Capcom fan. I mean, Resident Evil is a series that I mostly like, but I don't always like. It's just my own personal taste in how Capcom makes games and what their games mechanics usually are. And I'm not I like what I like. I don't, if you like it, like those styles of games, that's just, that's what you like. Um, but I mostly stay away from Capcom games. I'm just not that into it. But I can tell that this is based on video game stuff. I like seeing like I like watching somebody play a Capcom game for the cutscenes and the insanity that are in all of them more than I like playing them. Let's just say that. But I do think that I like, not knowing the game series, I like what they did here a lot. The animation is on point. The way that they made the main actor look a lot like the original actor that played these. Like, I think he played this character like in 3 actual films of Kira Kurosawa's, so that's really cool as well. All right, so before I get too off track, though, talking about the video game history of this, I just want to talk about the actual show. So yes, it's basically feels like a animated version of what would be something that they couldn't have done back then in the time that Akira Kurosawa was making those films. About a group of guys, and this is the part that I really like, is as you find out, it's not just this main. Gosh, you know what? I'm gonna have to like. Okay, because I'm having a hard time remembering Musashi. Musashi, the fucking guy's name is Musashi. Um, it's not just about him. It's about him and the group of guys that go along on this trek. And along this trek, they start to turn on each other a little bit. As things get revealed, you find out that the person that's even like leading the group is not to be trusted. And it's one of those that literally has that kind of throughout the whole thing. Like, just when you think everybody's who they say they are, something comes up and they flip and switch sides, or they see a different angle. And so all those things are pretty standard stuff that happens in a video game plot, especially video games like this. But what really stands out again is the animation and the absolute insanity of the action. And that's what I appreciate a lot in this, is that they might not have the best dialogue, but it definitely is very entertaining. Again, it has all the cliches and tropes, and it is hard to talk about without going into spoilers. So I will spoil some stuff for Onimusha pretty quickly here, because it has this whole. It's short, by the way, which is one of the reasons why I was able to get through it so quick. It has the still kind of that feeling of a lot of anime that just when it starts to get going, it ends. And then you have to watch the next episode. And the next episode will start and it won't even be where they left off. It'll be somewhere else. And then they get to it. And you jump in and it tells a little bit more of the story and then ends. So it is really easy to get through. You could get through this show very fast. And I'm not big into binging anymore. So getting through it, there is a part of this story, especially like near the end, where I started to kind of tune out a little bit, only because the writing just felt like, yes, I know where all of this is going. Let me know when the action starts. So a lot of the like little details I would have to rewind and rewatch, because I was like, wait, what just happened? Why does this matter? Mostly because, yeah, the writing would just take away from my interest. Was paying attention a lot more during like the action sequences, but there's many of those. And the story that you do get, that you do need, I do like, because it does deal with a bunch of people who started off one way as a group, and then over the course of their lives, presented with different choices and challenges, they all, go their separate ways. Some feel betrayed, some learn new things, some stay where they are, some get more devoted to what their cause is, and some secretly are flipping sides and working with bad guys and worse things. And our central guy is that typical, I've killed a lot of people, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I've made definitely a lot of enemies, and all those themes come up over the course of this, at least this bit. Is there going to be more? I don't know. I think that if there are more stories to tell in this universe, I absolutely would look forward to hearing it. I think that this serves as a pretty well, if it wants to be just one thing, then I think it works on that level too. You don't necessarily have to continue this story any further, because as the show goes along, guys die. They usually get some sort of like good redemption arc. They've passed on something they've learned. They've been able to like push the plot along and the message along. And I mean, again, I think a lot of the messages in this story is how these guys all kind of were together, broke apart, and then kind of came together again, even if they all had different motivations. And I liked seeing those motivations play out, even though it was predictable, like as it went along, that they were all kind of like in a like in a horror movie where they all just kind of get picked off one by one. But it's how they get picked off, it's how they die, it's how they sacrifice themselves. What does their deaths mean to the story? How does it push the plot along? And they do a really good job at making all those things matter to at least the other characters who take their deaths and what their deaths mean and what they learn from them. That part's all important. And that what happens in this show is way more important than the dialogue I think is important to say. Is that it's not just flashy action, it's not just the thing, and it's not just bad dialogue or corny, cheesy dialogue. The dialogue does suck for the most part, but again, it's the content of the story that rises above the bad dialogue, even if that caused me to tune out every once in a while. This show also doesn't have a bunch of really big voice actors like Blue Eye Samurai does, but they are all really good voice actors. They do a really great job at the handicap that is the cringy dialogue, but it's not all cringy. There is, heartfeltness to the performances, even if they are saying things that make me wince. But all in all, it's an insane experience. The animation's great. The action is great. The fact that it goes way more fantastical rather than the realistic approach that Blue Eye Samurai does. Doesn't take a... And again, it's fast. You can get through it really quickly. Now, I did talk about this first because clearly as you'll hear, I do think Blue Eye Samurai is superior, only because from somebody who comes from a story and character standpoint, it just shines brighter. Every single episode is written so well. I mean, Michael Green, before I kiss his ass too much, he did work on Alien Covenant. Okay, if you liked Alien Covenant, great, but it wasn't the greatest script of all time. But he has worked on other movies that I did think had pretty good scripts, including Blade Runner 2049 and James Mangold's Logan. So he's got a good background in this kind of both in sci-fi and in like Logan's basically wolf and cub kind of story. So it's not that far off. And he worked with his wife on this show. And they put out something that wasn't based on any, as far as I could tell, IP. So it also has that going for it. Now, a lot of people like to say, and even I'll say it occasionally, this is the Game of Thrones of blah, 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 because there's not much of a context, I don't think, for shows like this. We have to try to compare it to something. Game of Thrones was a hardcore show that had lots of nudity, sex, violence, but it was also really well written, had really like unique and fleshed out characters, people that you didn't expect to like, people that you hated that you suddenly had more sympathy for, and people that you never stopped hating until they died. So in that respect, sure, the show is the Game of Thrones of blah blah blah. And I even compared it or looked at it in some of the ways as far as the animation goes, which the animation in Blue Eye Samurai is some of the best animation I've ever seen in my entire life. Just absolutely hands down. And I was looking at some of the animation, like the character designs for it, and I was like, man, I can see Disney influence in some of these, or at least what looks like old Disney influence as far as the way that some of these characters were drawn. I was like, man, if only Disney could do that. And then I realized, I was thinking to myself, you know what? Fuck them. All right, they've had their chance. if they suddenly turn around and stop caring about so much about making movies for everybody, instead of just making movies that could be good, that might be good, that take some risks, blah blah blah. Until that day comes, I'm not going to encourage them anymore. They know, like if they can't learn from their mistakes, if other companies can't learn from their mistakes of what works and what doesn't, then I say, don't worry about it. Let people that like make shows like Blue Eye Samurai just keep making them. We need more original voices out there. We need no more studios that aren't these big studios that are going to just crank out, the same thing over and over and over again. And Blue Eye Samurai is like such a unique property. I didn't think I'd like it. I wondered why. I was like, man, these episodes are dense. These episodes are long. And by the time it was over, I couldn't wait until I can't wait until, I can wait, but I'm so excited to see where they're going to go next. I know that it's already been greenlit for a second season. I hope they take their time with it. I hope that, whenever it comes out, I am there for it. So first off, I'm going to talk about like one of the things, like, okay, the dialogue in this show is unlike any dialogue I've ever heard in an animated anything. There are tons of great animated shows out there. Over the course of my life, I have seen a lot of really well done animated shows, but they don't always have every single thing going for it. And this show does. This show has every single thing going for it. In fact, there was an episode I went, like, this is kind of like Game of Thrones. And it turned out one of the directors was like Alan Taylor that like does Game of Thrones. There you go. But top notch, believable, unique writing. The dialogue is fantastic. And you have a voice cast that is top notch, that surpassed any kind of expectations I would have had in the actors who performed them. And it goes across the board to the main ones, and I'll talk about the main ones, because I think they deserve all the praise they can get. Because the two leads, who I consider to be Mizu and Akemi, right, played by Maya Erskine and Brenda Song. I've seen both of these ladies in tons of things over the years, and I didn't even look up the voice cast of this show until I was deep into it. And when I saw who was doing the voices, I couldn't believe it. Brenda Song has a certain quality to a lot of her performances, and she's definitely got a unique voice. But she, and same with Maya Erskine, who I know mostly from comedies and mostly from being silly characters and characters like from Pen 15. I think I call it Pen 15. I think it's supposed to be called Penis. I don't know. But from what I knew from her, she was mostly a silly comedy actress. Both of these actresses disappeared in these roles. I couldn't believe that I was getting a voice performance like we got in this show from these two actresses who just completely disappear inside these animated roles. They also found a way to kind of make each character look like the actors, so it helped a little bit and made it even more like jaw-dropping, that I could tell that this is something that they you can tell when somebody really cares about the material, when they found something special, when they've got people really special behind the, everything, people that really want to make something good, when you're in the hands of people that are making something special. And that's what you can tell from every voice actor in here. Randall Park and Masaoka. I mean, Randall Park, again, he's a good actor. And even as silly as his parts are, and as kind of like the comedic relief or whatever for like the Marvel movies that he's in, when I found out that he played Haiji Shindo in this, holy crap, he took what he usually does. I can hear it in his voice. I can hear the normal Randall Park voice. And he created a performance that's unique to anything he's ever done. And again, I know him mostly from comedic performances. And boy, did he give like, he plays a bad dude in this. And the fact that they were able to use his style of voice, just it's unique. And same with Masaoka, who I was prepared for, as he plays Ringo in this, the guy with no hands, the big guy with no hands. And I thought he was just going to be like, again, probably my own kind of personal biases because I've only seen him in Heroes, really. And I thought, oh, are we just going to get that guy again? Nope. He takes the supporting character and does some really fantastic stuff with this. Same with Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who, I mean, come on, your soul is mine. I mean, we're talking about dude from Mortal Kombat here. And he basically has to play the mentor, the sword maker of this. And as the quiet performer, like he even took this role and gave it something unique. The guy who, and we've seen these characters before, by the way, folks. That's one of the things I'm saying is like both like Onimusha and Blue Eye Samurai have the same type of characters who you could throw in as call them the cliche this and the cliche that. But because of the quality of the writing, these actors get to take a cliched character and do something unique with it, do something different, get to play it differently than they normally do. Or they're given a role that they don't normally get to take and do something great with it. And his almost like silent performance, you could tell that there was still care there. George Takei is in this. Seki, he's great as the way that he shines in this, the way that his character gets to shine in this, like it's fantastic. And I know that like I'm not saving the white guy for last on purpose, but I really want to talk about Kenneth Branagh as the main the big bad at the end of the day. He's the main villain in this, and he plays Abja Fowler. I can't. It's written small, but as Fowler, Kenneth Branagh has been around forever, right? If you haven't seen a ton of his stuff, if you're younger, I don't. It's not a surprise if you don't know a lot about Kenneth Branagh. Some people might only know him as he's the guy who directed Thor, or he's in the Murder on the Blankety Blanks. But I've known him for a long time when he's been doing Shakespeare and thrillers and everything under the sun, man, over the course of his life. And as Fowler in this show, as the big bad, you could tell that he's looking at this script. And I haven't read interviews, but if I'm betting dollars to donuts that Kenneth Branagh read that script and he uses that script like the master actor, the veteran actor that he is. He chews scenery like Shatner, except if Shatner got better dialogue. This guy gives a villain performance that I have never seen. Somebody who relishes in it. It's like you can almost see the animated version of this character enjoying himself as much as the voice actor is enjoying himself. He's complicated, and the only thing that I hated was that how they at the very end. Here's a spoiler for anybody who watches this. Like skip this for like the next 20 seconds or whatever. Okay, but the fact that he lives at the end pissed me off because I know that people love a good villain, and like what can they do next with him? But I felt like the way that the show was structured and what the character needed to do, the fact that they kind of made him do that cliche thing, which is, I have information, I can help you out, you should keep me around. It's like, I know that the audience probably wants him around. I feel like they go, we've got something really special in this actor and this voice performance, let's keep him around. But I still think they should have killed him, only because I feel like it fit the story better and that the character would be better off going on this journey, like figuring things out without dragging along the obvious guy who's going to cause problems later for you. It to me is more of a story thing, not a character thing. I love the character. I love that he's going to be in it some more. I just wish that deep down they had killed him. The other things to talk about in Blue Eye Samurai, again, the animation is absolutely freaking believable, but it's the story also that drives it super, super strong. I love this story. In fact, when you talk about how Onimusha is like the super fantastical, takes this setting and moves it to the super fantastical, where it's, samurais fighting, demons and zombies and everything else, while Blue Eye Samurai just deals with people that act like demons and monsters. And the most unrealistic thing about Blue Eye Samurai is just that, you're dealing with, female characters that are locked up in this very, very male, it's I shouldn't say like how it is. It's, women are on the same level as men in this time period, all over the world. All right. All over the world, it was like this, and seeing them, how they dealt with it. You have two main characters, one who does not want to marry the man she's being forced to marry. We've seen that plot a million times. And then we've got, the kind of Mulan type character, the boy, the girl pretending to be a boy. We've seen that before. But so that's the more fantastic, unrealistic thing, is that, these female characters in this setting, in this time period, where, you know, you're just as likely to be killed just by being a woman, let alone being able to rise up and do something about your station back then, and being able to kill the villains instead of being the victim of villains. That to me is the more fantastical thing. But for the but it's this is where the story's going, and this is where your suspension of disbelief comes in. But you're so entertained and you want them to succeed that you don't care that it's not realistic. Same as how when you're watching Onimusha and you're seeing a bunch of guys do things that cannot happen, you don't care because it is so entertaining. You're just along for the ride. Same thing, different styles, different kind of quality. But somehow they're both as equally entertaining as they could be. And I'm not purposely skipping over like the main there's a guy in between this, all right? If I got a nitpick, it's, the love triangle thing that kind of got set up a little bit here. Where you got this guy named Tigan, who is played by, I thought would be, because this is almost an entirely, Asian cast. So Kenneth Branagh being the villain, fine. The guy comes, he's meant to be this kind of bane for the main character's existence. It's Blue Eye Samurai because she is half Japanese and half white. And she's looking for the people who, in their country, and a half breed is a devil, is a monster. And she's looking for revenge on the person who made her this way, because if she, she shouldn't exist. She sees herself as a monster. She has this horrible self-image of herself because of what these men who came there to feast on her country, created her along the way, and her creation is like their undoing. I find that awesome. But Darren Barnett is like the other white guy in the show, and I'm not gonna. Hey, they hired him. Would have been cooler if it was all Asian cast, but whatever. But it's what's more important is the characters there. Kind of like he's with Brenda Song's Akemi. She wants him to be the guy who sweeps her away. Something happens, and it's not possible. And he goes off to fight the Blue Eye Samurai. He gets into a thing with her, except he doesn't know it's a her. He thinks he's fighting a man, and there's like certain feelings that he's having for this person that he doesn't know is actually a girl. And she knows that she's attracted to him, even though she knows he's with Akemi. And then they do some, but Akemi, like as much as like Maya Erskine's Mizu goes through hell in this show, Akemi goes through like some really powerful stuff where she's forced basically to, you know, play the part that she's been given. She has to go with some guy because she's still trying to make the best of it. She's still trying to find an angle, and she has to use her body to do it and still keep going, risking her like own like happiness and whether or not her man would even like her after would want her after everything she's been through. She's very complicated. These cliche characters have very complicated things going on that rise above the cliches, and I could keep saying that over and over and over again. So in the end, because I don't want to keep going and reveal all these things about the plots, because the show stands on its own. These shows both stand on their own. They're both very interesting takes on very cool setting that I'm always there for. So this hopefully just came off as a good recommendation, a good appreciation for two really cool shows on Netflix that, look, Netflix, keep making shows like this. Stop canceling shows after a couple of seconds, because that's the main reason why I quit you in the first place. But as long as you guys can keep making out quality work like this, giving people with unique voices, an opportunity, I'm here for it. I can't wait to see what they do for Blue Eye Samurai season 2. I can't wait to see if Onimusha does anything. So anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Again, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.